All right.
I brought an extra agenda.
Okay, great.
Do you need one?
I'm good. So, all right, everybody. Good evening. I'm calling the Board of Supervisors of Elections meeting to order on Thursday, October 17th, 2024 at 7:04 p.m. We are meeting, obviously, in person at the City Council chambers. Do the roll call. Debbie Yatzik.
Here.
Eileen Leahy here, Regina Watkins Eldridge here, Teresa Bucalo, and Cynthia Reuter. Here, great, okay. I would like to, do I do it here that I can amend the agenda, or do I do it after public comments? All right. I'll go ahead and, do we have public comments? Okay, so I would like to amend the agenda to include the initial review of a petition form to be used if we have unaffiliated candidates applying in this election. You second that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So we'll discuss that later in new business. Okay. Approval of minutes?
I have no.
I had no changes
yeah,
either.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the minutes of last month, September 19th.
Okay, I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, now the best part. Update from Regina Watkins Eldridge in regards to the election.
Let's see what I have here. I think I told you the other day when we had our meeting that the polling places that are owned by the city, we received approval from the city manager for those locations. We also received an approval from the Eastport Community Center, and we received one from the American Legion. So the deadline that we put in the letter for the approvals was the 21st, so they should be coming in. The rest should be coming in next week.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So that probably leaves what, Mount Olive? We're waiting on Mount Olive.
We got Mount
then?
Olive today, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so we have Mount Olive. I just opened
So
it
that
before-
might be all of them.
Yeah, we're gonna verify them. They're just sitting in a pile, so we're gonna just give you a condensed list at your next meeting.
Okay, that's great. And thank you for getting started on that.
All right, yeah. Oh, we had a call from Anne Arundel County. They asked us if we take down the link to our Dropbox locations, because people were coming in City Hall asking where was the Dropbox. There's no Dropbox
okay.
for their presidential election in front of City Hall.
Confusing.
So we took the link down per the chair of Anne Arundel County. And we checked our P.O. Box 788 today. You would never
Still
believe.
there?
Yeah, we still have it, and guess what was in it?
What,
Take a guess.
a ballot?
A couple of them.
Oh, well,
Yeah, they were dated February the 23rd, 2023, from our 2021 election.
Wow. They got
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah, so we did that.
or they sat somewhere in the
Yeah,
mail.
there's that somewhere. So that is the end of my updates.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, on to new business, certification of candidacy for Alderwoman Karma O'Neill. You had a chance to look at,
I did peek at it. I didn't see any issues with it. Is it possible, though, to get more things printed out? I'm printing out a lot of things over these years, using a lot of ink and paper. Is there a way to
Bring them to the meeting.
to have? Yeah, because it's easier to read and mark up in paper than different people use different ink. And I mean, and it's small, and even with glasses on, it's light, and even though I have a good computer, it's taxing to read each one's different flavors. If we could get copies made, and, you know, even when we meet in person, have some copies of things prepared here instead of us having to print them out, that'd be great.
What do you propose we do when you have a virtual meeting?
I know, see, that's a problem. Virtual meeting, I print out at home, but it's just,
It's
getting
your
to be
gift
a
to the
lot.
city.
Yeah, I guess when we meet in person, you know, if we could just have a packet in person,
Okay.
you know. Don't, of course not when we're afar.
Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to approve the certification of candidacy for Karma O'Neill? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, certification of candidacy for mayor, Rhonda Pindell Charles.
It looked fine to me, so I move that we accept it.
All right, I'll second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, moving on to O 20-24, elections, surplus funds, and the reporting deadlines. I guess I should back up a little bit, just the legislation that we put forth for the ballot questions, the definitions, and mail-in voting passed. So do they do anything after this passed, City Council?
I
There
submitted
was a
to our records keeping company, Municode, and they put it into the code.
Oh, so it's already in?
Not yet.
No, okay, but there's nothing else needs to be done at the City Council level?
Or for us.
Okay,
Yeah.
great,
Okay,
okay.
Thank you.
So the O 2024 went to the Rules Committee and also to the Finance Committee. And this involved the surplus funds for the when people file their final report, and also included things like deadlines and late fees. At the Rules Committee meeting, there were a couple of questions that they had. One was on page 3.
Which one are you on?
This is the surplus funds.
Okay. This
Yeah.
one?
Page 3. Under timely reports required. So number 1 says, all reports or statements required in 4.44.080 and 4.44.100 must be filed by the candidate, their chair or treasurer, during the 5 calendar years preceding the election in which the candidate seeks to participate. And it was unclear what that meant. And I couldn't answer it. I was hoping maybe Ashley, do you remember it at all, Cynthia, where that came from?
During the committee meeting?
No, or where we did it when we were reviewing all of this. I'm wondering if it's supposed to refer to, you have to keep them for 5 years.
We do keep campaign funds.
Do the candidates have to keep it for 5 years?
We don't have any control over what they do. We keep them and we had them online for 5 years.
Okay, so you talk about A1.
A1.
That had to do with candidates who start campaigning, or start raising money up to 5 years before the election. They have to be able to report the money that they're raising, if I remember right.
You have to start reporting once you make $300. Once you receive, you made $300, then you are required to report. So I don't know how 5 years fits in that. Because as soon as you make that amount, you're required to report.
Yeah,
That is existing language.
is it?
That is currently in 4.44.100A. The bill splits that section into two paragraphs.
It looks like it's kind of saying what what they do now. While you're in office for 4 years, you have to file all your reports. At the end of the term, you file that December one, which would make 5 years of report.
This is preceding the election.
Right, so if you are running in 2025, you had to have all your statements,
Through 25, plus when
But-
the last one.
but it talks about preceding the election. So if the election's 2025, it's looking and saying you have to have all of your reports and statements for the 5 years beforehand.
2020.
21. That's when we start.
So it's just saying they must be filed.
They are.
I mean, it is a little ambivalent, but if it's existing code.
Right. If the candidate has done anything that requires a report, they have to start filing those reports 5 years in advance if it happened during that period.
Okay. It would be interesting or helpful if we also had something in there at some point saying if you're not running to close your account.
Right.
Because we've had people that had it open more than 5 years.
You know, and honestly, I don't know a better way to explain that.
Okay. Well, they just were asking for more information and to
So
explain it.
they must have forgotten or not known, because they're elected, they're in office now, the Rules Committee.
Right, but they've been filing their reports. It's basically saying you have to
Right.
file your reports. Correct? Okay, so they just asked for an explanation, so I'll go with that. The next thing that they had questions about was, again, was legislation that we were not changing. But because it was part of this legislation, they focused in on it. And that had to do at the bottom of page 3, payment source. Candidates and campaign finance entities cannot pay fees directly or indirectly from campaign funds. So the members of the Rules Committee wanted to see about having that changed so that it could come from the campaign. Now, the Finance Committee passed it favorably, so they were fine with it. I did emphasize to the Rules Committee that is existing code. It isn't something that changed. And then I pointed to them and said, on page 4, you'll see that we have a fee waiver. So that was what we came up with when we decided that we were going to continue having the responsibility of the fees stay with the candidate. And so that a candidate may seek a fee waiver. And then there's the 2 other options. So the members of the Rules Committee asked to return at their next meeting, and to provide some sort of draft or something to show what the waiver is. Now, in the Finance Committee, one of the members asked, could it be an option? Could a candidate have the option to pay it themselves or to have the campaign do it? I know, it was just a question. So it was interesting that one of the members from the Rules Committee changed their vote and voted to postpone it in Rules, but voted for it in Finance. So what I propose we do tonight for the fee waiver is look at the form that we've drafted up. So if it looks good, I can bring it back to them and go from there. The other option along with that would be, what are the thoughts about changing it so that
Can I
campaign
just
entities
interrupt for a
can pay?
second? This can't be your form.
It's not the form, it's just the content.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because Ashley said, she did send me an email, and she said that we need to make this a city form.
Right,
Yeah, so are you just approving the text when you do that?
yes, yeah, it's not the form.
Okay.
So if we can get something more formalized before the November 1st meeting, great. But if not, I can at least say this is the content that we're working on. They just wanted, the words they used was flesh it out, or something along
Which
that
means
line.
Regina,
So,
Yeah, we'll get it done.
which means all of you.
again, it's not something that needs to be imminent, but, you know, just get it done. So what are your thoughts?
I like the idea of flexibility of whether, of allowing the campaign, if it's related to the job. I don't want to waste, like, people who give to candidates are giving, you know, for a specific purpose of items related to their election. So if it's, you know, something appropriate, and, you know, we've talked about this when we were
Appropriate
going
in
over the
terms of what?
finance, appropriate to the office, appropriate to the you know, a campaign. Bless you.
Well, the first question would be, do we want to stay with what the current code is, which is candidates and campaign finance entities cannot pay fees directly or indirectly from campaign funds? Or do we want to change that and allow them to take it from the campaign funds?
Depends what it is.
Well, if it's something that has a reason, there's a fee waiver that allows them to do that. So I would prefer to keep it as is and then allow the fee waiver, which actually waives the fee. It doesn't say it comes out of campaign
Anyway.
funds, it just waives it. So it's not coming out of campaign funds, but it's not putting the burden necessary on the candidate, depending on the circumstances. And the types of circumstances we'll get into, you know, when we look at it.
Eileen, we were talking earlier today about fees, and I think that we have a memo from the finance director that I want to check, because the city doesn't waive any fees.
Well, there's an indigent waiver form that we've used in the past where people waive, and they waive
I think it's
fees.
the language in the forms, when it says waive my fee. I think we have a memo, because we don't waive any application fees, we don't waive
They
any.
waive fees down at City Dock all the time for the,
Oh, I don't
for the
have nothing to do
different
with-
festivals, because I see it on the,
I just
on
was,
the agendas. So, I mean, that would, if you could check on that, that'd be fine, but,
yeah, we didn't get to do it. We're gonna ask Jody about it tomorrow.
but, so currently, I'm,
Because there is a section in the city code that the only fees that can be waived are for facilities, and they can only be waived by the mayor for facility use, I think.
okay, well.
I'm
like I
gonna
said,
check.
Okay, if you could check on that. I'm in favor of keeping it as it is, formalizing the fee waiver form, verifying the status of waiving fees, and then going back to the Rules Committee and seeing what their feedback might be. Are you okay with that?
Yep, yes.
Because if it turns out that you can't waive the fee, then that's a whole different, that's a whole different ballgame. Okay. All right.
But I do think should be scenarios where a campaign fund would work for that,
And what might
not
that
their
be?
personal.
And what might that be?
Well-
That couldn't be covered in the fee waiver.
Well, this is where the waiver doesn't apply, but the candidate doesn't have to personally pay. It could come out of campaign funds. Not a waiver of a fee at all, just who pays the fee. Because we want people to run, and if it was not their treasurers, I don't know. I always follow the rules, I always know the dates, so but we do have cases where, you know, good people are messing up, so that's why we're trying to do our job, to
Yeah,
make sure
but-
everybody knows.
I mean, I can't in recent history them being more than $20, $40, except when they go to the 500 range. And when they go to the 500 range, it's usually because they are refusing to pay it, and it's a whole different reason.
Well, I'm thinking of the ones we've had, we had 125, 250, those fees,
I don't know. I feel like,
you know, with, missing deadlines.
yeah, but Regina's office gives notice, gives reminders.
We did receive a payment of $40 today, the
Okay.
late fee.
Okay.
And then you have to track the fees, make sure you
Well,
get
let's
them.
go with what we have right now,
Yeah.
and then just give them the feedback that they've asked for and see what they say. And then we'll get the information from Regina, which could change
Yeah,
it all.
we're gonna email Jody tomorrow.
Thank you.
So that's what I have from my notes from that day. So I'll be attending the November 1st meeting. Is that a Friday?
Lucky you.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is voter education, election communication plan.
Well, what about the unaffiliated candidates? Did you want
We're-
to add that
we
to your
don't-
business?
We don't have that on business.
What was that? No, I thought you added it tonight.
It's off.
We didn't add it.
No,
Under new business.
no,
Oh,
stop there.
unaffiliated candidates, right?
That's under the form. That's gonna go in, oh, it is new business, you're right, thank you. So that's the form. So we are just looking ahead, if there are unaffiliated candidates. There's a process whereby they need to collect 100 signatures if they're running for alderman, and those signatures have to be in the ward that the candidate is applying for. If it's a mayor, you have to have 500. So there's a process in the code, but we don't have a form that's used for the petitions. So what we're looking at, this has been reviewed briefly by, we've taken the state of Maryland, the general election candidate nomination petition, and it's had an initial scan by the Office of Law by Ashley Leonard, and she feels that we can probably use it, just change the masthead and change some basic information. And it can be used. Unfortunately, she's not here tonight to verify any of those components. So before it's used, we do need to approve it. So I think,
So basically, just instead of state of Maryland, it would be city of Annapolis.
right,
And then they would just put in the third party or unaffiliated, and then everything's, I mean, it's the same except for
right.
this,
Well, it's not
right?
necessarily for a third party, it's for, it could be a third
Not
party,
a
but
recognized
there's no third parties that have more than 10%. So it's really focused most on the unaffiliated.
Yeah, so not a recognized party or unaffiliated.
Okay.
What about independent? Is that the same as
That's
unaffiliated?
unaffiliated.
Okay. That would be easy to do then if law office.
So let's at this point then just move forward with trying to work on this and work with Ashley and touch base with Regina and Teresa, and we may just have to have a quick meeting.
What have we used before when we've had independents?
What did we decide? It was like before
Like
2013.
Will Scott, he ran as an independent.
Right, and so
So
did
did Gilbert
Gib.
Hill.
But I think when you looked, you didn't find,
I
it's so
didn't-
long ago.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look for this
Yeah.
form.
It's- But,
I didn't look, I honestly did not look for this form.
okay, all right, so we'll move forward with this as fast as we can, as needed. But this is a start. And you have this, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that would be simple if we could just do that.
Right, and then the challenging part is gonna be verifying it, which we'll work with the Anne Arundel County Board of Elections, but they won't be doing much until, what they tell us, November 16th, November 15th, so, okay, all right, but we'll be ready. Any comments from you all on that? Yeah, okay. Just get the ball rolling. All right, next is discussion, the voter education, election communication plan. Unfortunately, Mitchell Stevenson was going to join us tonight, and she's sick. So we'll reschedule for November. Next order of business is old business, fair election practices, the campaign fund report forms. This is just mostly an update. I met with Brian from MIT. I met with him this week, and we briefly went through it. He's optimistic that it can be made fully fillable. There may be some quirks as far as how do we merge Excel into PDFs or how maybe the mechanics of it. But I have a meeting with him again next week on the 22nd to kind of draft things out. So what we looked at was mostly that the summary sheet would basically be the same. And Schedule 2, which is Schedule 1, which is contributions and receipts, would go and become landscape and would have, basically, it would be a template. And so we would say to all of them, you need to use the template.
Yeah.
So, so then it's going to be consistent. So it'll have a heading so that we know, because some of them, when we get back, it's just a spreadsheet and we don't know, is it Schedule 1 or Schedule 3?
Okay, let me ask my question again.
Sure.
You're changing the form,
Right?
but you're not requiring everybody to use it because of the code section. Because the code section says that they can create their own Excel spreadsheet.
But they still can create, well,
No.
That's what I was saying. Do we need the legislation to change the code section? If
Yeah.
you're gonna require everybody to use that, or you're gonna let them use whatever they want,
No.
but you're just updating this form?
well, what we can do is we can request, or we can say, this is the template we prefer that you use.
There are several places in the code that says, shall use the form as adopted or provided by the Board of Elections.
Okay,
So
right,
there's examples where you can do that.
right. So what, they can still do their Excel spreadsheet. I mean, that's a good point, but we're going to ask them to do the template so that it's all consistent. So every column for each one.
I think that might be fine for people. I think
That might be fine for people with new campaigns, but the people with continuing campaigns already have their, like the mayor's form is already an Excel spreadsheet that he just keeps adding to.
I'm sure they can
So-
reconfigure it.
Right, so myself and talking to other treasurers, that was a key point, is to create an electronic spreadsheet template for recording donations, which is Schedule 1. And we have certain information we need, so if we can give them the template with the name on it, and the columns that we need, the new people would pick it up. The old people are asking for it too, really. I think, you know, I mean, hopefully the template that comes up from IT here, you know, could allow transfer of the old people's information.
Well, they don't have to bring all of that forward. Once they've done those reports, they don't bring all of that information forward. They're just doing whatever they've raised since July. So the sooner we
So
get
they'll
it
just
done
start
will
the
be
new-
better.
Right, so they'll just start the new one, like, some candidates have already started,
Right.
but they would just start with the new one once the new one's ready.
That would be the idea. Now, if it's a hardship, we can kind of address that, or we
Right.
can just put in the
Or
language.
grandfather.
We request that you use this, but we'll see.
But you're
No,
right,
but
they
you're
all
right,
have
that's a good point.
different,
That was in my office today, talking about this subject that you, and he said he's having a hard time finding a treasurer because of some of these issues.
we're trying to make it, that's what we're trying to
That's what we're
work
trying
on.
to do. We're trying to make it efficient, and we're trying to make it consistent.
Because there is
So-
pain out there for treasurers, there is. And this is, that's what we've been addressing.
Right, that's what we're trying to do. And I hear what you're saying, but
I would tell him that it's gonna get better, that there will be, you know, if this form comes out and it's
And his treasurer does use an Excel spreadsheet, I think. So, all right, so, and of course, there'll be paper copies if there's somebody that isn't doing it. I mean, but it'll probably be it'll look different, it'll be formatted differently. So what they're saying would be just put it all along here. The other thing that he suggested, which I thought might be helpful, is under code to put in a Dropbox, which would make it easier too. So
So the choices are there.
the choices are there and they can just click and do that. We talked about putting the definitions there, but that would be a little too much. So the definitions would still be in the instruction sheet. Okay, but that might be something that people like. And again, make it easier.
Because like the aggregate, I mean, this form currently that has been around, I don't know, a long time, right? Because this was the form
It's been,
I used, I
the
think, in
same.
2017. So, you know, some things can get lost, and I think that's why when we're reviewing submissions, you know, a code will be missing, or the aggregate will be missing, or they won't put down how the amount was received, because it's a little
It's busy.
or jumbled. It's a little awkward for new people. I mean, once you get to know it, it's better. But initially, though, I think everyone has messed up somehow.
Yeah. So the idea would be to make it easier and more efficient and consistent, and then hopefully we'll have fewer errors. So then on Schedule 2, that's the one where it's loans and transfers. And I think at a previous meeting, we talked about the fact that transfers can be recorded either on Schedule 2 or on Schedule 3. And does it need to be in both places, or can it just be in one place? And if in one place, which one do we want it in? I didn't see in code where it stipulates the different schedules unless I missed it. Are you aware? Okay. You haven't seen anything, are you? So do you have what are your thoughts as far as?
I'm trying. When we've corrected forms, you know, 1 and 3 are the main forms people use. A lot of people don't do 2. Schedule
Well,
2.
they don't. Most people think of, I think, they think of the disbursement, if they're giving to another campaign in the city, in their mind, they think of it as a disbursement.
Right.
And so they put it there, and some candidates, treasurers are more savvy and remember to put it in the transfer column as opposed to the payment column. So again, if this was an easier form, so transfers was over here, might be one, but some may prefer that it just be totally separate. So I'm kind of
Well, I
thinking,
like
as
3.
you've been a treasurer, so.
I mean, I like 3. 3 has payment column, and it has a transfer column, and it has a loan payment column. It's all there. It's just all these boxes.
Right, so keep it in Schedule 3 and take it out of Schedule 2.
I would.
Okay, are you okay with that concept? Okay, all right, so,
Because thinking of the mistakes, you know, you've seen more than I've seen, but
right.
we have a lot of repetitive mistakes that we're trying to fix for everybody's health.
And we can put, you know, they also suggested, I don't know if I want to go quite to this degree, but we actually can include instructions on the different things. So we could put under the heading a reminder, you know, what a transfer is, or a definition for that, okay. Schedule 4, outstanding obligations as of the end of report period. That probably could just even stay the same unless we want to make it consistent in landscape, but that's not even used that often. Schedule 5 is in-kind contributions. It's only 4 columns, but again, it could be reformatted if we wanted. So that's what we have for that. So any other comments about changes you'd like to see to the campaign fund reports?
So the main issue is not a major issue, but it's kind of an annoyance, and it's that pages that are not used
Right.
currently require a slash and an initial. So you have to do two things on every page that you're not using. You have to do a slash and you have to do an initial. And we have to call them out on it if it's not done according to the code. So so a suggestion is for the pages that don't apply or will be left blank, just have a not applicable checkbox
Oh, okay.
on the page. So you don't have to slash, you don't have to initial. They're just at the top, should be a checkbox, this does not apply or not applicable, and they just have to do that. What do you think of that?
Something to think about. What do you all think? I know you don't have to review them.
And you're the first board that does that, the next board might go back to having an audit.
Well, last time we asked about an auditor, we were told no.
Then we could do an RFP.
Okay. All right, well, we'll just focus on this one for getting this done for the upcoming election. Okay, so he felt that there was time to start working on this, that he had somebody he could give this to. So,
You don't need to make all
right,
this
but the treasurers are recording that information now. So if they have the ability,
To
you know,
start
if
it
there's gonna
right
be a
away.
change, they can just start
Sooner the
sooner,
better.
yeah, sooner rather than later.
Because treasurers are gonna start with these candidates.
Right. Okay. All right. So I'll follow up in November. Okay. And next item on the agenda is,
Late fee waiver form?
so the late fee waiver form. So again, if we can just look at content, you said you had those copies of the late fee form? Oh, you gave them to me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this is looking at this is just a draft of content that could be on the late fee waiver request form. And so this is in response to the Rules Committee asking for more information. So what I did was I looked at what the Maryland State form was and referred also to a memorandum on waivers that Jared DeMoranis issued. I think it was in February. I have it here somewhere if you want to look at it. So this would include the name of the candidate or committee as filed in the election office, the name, email. I guess we could put phone number. Would phone number be helpful, do you think, or just leave it? Campaign account. They have business entity and others, so we probably don't need that. The requester's name and the requester's email. So apparently, at the state level, it could be that somebody else besides the candidate or the treasurer might, the requester could be someone from the committee. There had been an other in there, and I took that out. So the requester would either be the chair, the treasurer, or the candidate themselves. They did not list campaign manager, but I'm not sure the state uses that terminology. We could add it.
What do we end up with in the definitions?
I
We
forget
worked
what our
on
chair
that.
was, we did.
We worked on that, whether to call them
I mean,
a
in my,
manager, a chair.
well, my thought is that it's only going to affect the treasurer or the candidate.
I'm thinking we could eliminate the chair.
So take the chair out.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they list the waiver of late fees for the following campaign finance reports. At the state level, they list them all, but I figured we can just make that fill it in, because it's generally just one or two. total amount of the late fee, and then reasons for the late fee to be waived. So it would be type of reasons that may be considered, but not limited to, are administrative error, undue financial hardship, or extenuating circumstances such as physical illness or death in the family. The request must provide factual information and just cause for the waiver of the late fees. That's actually the verbiage from the state. If you assert as the basis for the request that you were personally unable to file the report, please explain why the other responsible parties could not file the report. So I think this would be a case if the treasurer, for some reason, couldn't do it, the candidate can make the request or can explain that. And then there's just certifying information provided is true and accurate to the best of their knowledge and under the penalties of perjury. So
So it would be responsible party here if we took out this. You know, why the other responsible parties could not file the report, but it would just be one other person because we took out the chair.
oh, okay.
Do we have a penalty for perjury that would apply to this? Okay, so whatever the city penalty is. Okay.
Okay. So one question I had, and just to follow up with Cynthia, so I'm glad you're here. I had asked, because the way that the code is actually being recommended that it's, well, what went to the Rules Committee was the candidate shall submit a sworn statement concerning the candidate's financial condition and fill out a form provided by the election board. And so my question had been, do we need to be more specific about things like physical ill, you know, actually not more specific, but more broad? And Cynthia, your feeling was that it all comes down to financial hardship. True, is that, am I interpreting it correctly?
You're asking, what does it say now?
Well, what is being reviewed by the committees talks about financial condition, and that's certainly one of the components is financial hardship, but it could be other extenuating circumstances that are not financial.
Right. Basically, it's make your case and see if the board accepts it.
Okay, but if we were, say, to approve a waiver based on extenuating circumstances, would anybody come back and say, well, that's not what's in the code? It has to be financial?
I am looking now to see what's in the code. Do you have the code number by chance?
I have to go. The code number, oh, it's O-2024.
020.
So do you have, like, on these things, are you gonna have like, it's three of you, does it have to be unanimous? Does it have to be a majority? What is the, I mean, what if, I don't know, are all of these gonna be accepted? I mean, if you take the time to fill it out, are you gonna accept it, or does it have to be approved by the majority of the board?
Just as the board may conduct a reasonable investigation of the facts in the form and determine the need to grant a waiver.
So you would have to accept it, right?
Well, we'd have to vote on it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Would it have to be a
We didn't
unanimous?
specify. It would have to be a majority.
Majority,
Oh, okay,
that's how we.
just the question.
No, I mean, we didn't.
But I agree that, 'cause I'm thinking it's usually gonna be extenuating circumstances more than financial condition. And so I like that it's enumerated on the form, it will be admin error, financial hardship, extenuating circumstances. So in O-2024, that extenuating circumstances
Okay.
would be prudent, I think, to add that. Unless but that's,
Well, but
this is
that's,
just
it's
approved,
already,
right?
well, it hasn't been approved. It's at committee.
Oh.
So maybe we can get see what
It's up to
Cynthia
us.
says and just follow up with Ashley and have Ashley take a look at it.
Wait, didn't you change that?
What's that, under fee waiver?
Yeah.
I think I just printed this one out before I came. Because there was one attached to our meeting agenda, and it was listed as that, just financial hardship.
Yeah, but see, this is what I'm looking at here, is
Yeah.
this,
Exactly, and me too, yeah, I agree, right?
but we're allowing other things besides financial condition.
Which would, so, and extenuating circumstances.
I could swear
be
we had
added
this
in.
discussion before.
Or is it in another draft?
Circumstances, what does that mean?
Well, like it's on the form, such
be
as physical
illness.
illness or death in the family.
Or like, yeah, trap, maybe they got stuck somewhere in the world.
Well, I think it's a question for Ashley. If we need to ask for this to be amended.
But this 020 doesn't have that section of the code.
Or we were just looking up there, is that not the right one?
Is that a different version?
I thought it was what was posted.
Well, the
on
version that you gave me was 420. And this deals with 444. So you can't dip into 420 when the legislation only deals with 420, with 444.
Okay,
But that's why I'm thinking that 420 is in other legislation that you were considering.
I'm sorry, I'm confused, but where you're saying it dipped into a different,
That legislation was already on track. It was adopted as a first reader. That's
Right.
Submitted to committee.
right.
So therefore you can't add a whole section that's not already in there.
Well, we wouldn't add a section, we would just add,
She said it's not in there.
Yeah, you're talking about 420050, filing fees, where it says in circumstances where a candidate seeks filing a fee waiver, before a waiver may be granted by the board, the candidate must submit a sworn statement concerning the candidate's financial condition. That's under
That's a-
nominations and candidacy,
that's a filing
which
fee.
is chapter 420.
But we're not talking about.
that's a filing fee.
Yes.
This is a late fee.
Yeah,
Right. In a totally different chapter, and you cannot amend chapter 420 when the legislation deals with chapter 444. So, which fee are you actually wanting?
the late fee.
The late
The
fee?
late fee to be
Do you want
waived
the fee waiver to be not on the filing fee, but on the late fee?
on the late
Yes.
fee.
For and adding extenuating circumstances, it's already in there for financial condition.
All right, that looks like the same. Those are the same requirements as 420. So, yeah, you can recommend an amendment to subsection E 2B.
Usually under section
444.100. So if you're in the bill, it would be page 4, line 29.
So we would just insert it after financial condition.
Yes. Um, So now I'm wondering how did you change the previous one?
I don't remember changing anything in particular.
It was a discussion. Okay. Okay. Nope, that's not it. It's 082.
I'd have to go back and look at my other versions.
This was the summary for surplus. Next, there's no vote here.
It had to be, so it was 420, it had to be a section that you considered, but that decided not to do anything with.
Okay,
That's gotta be it.
all right.
Because it's not in any of the bills that you've recommended so far.
Okay,
All right, so that means you're open to say whatever you want
okay.
as an amendment.
So we can add an amendment. Okay,
You can, you can suggest an amendment to
suggest,
the
okay.
committee.
All right, well, I'll bring it back to them and then
So do
we?
you have an agreement on what the amendment should
What
say?
would you say if the amendment would be? Let's say?
Just that in subsection E, 2B, the candidate shall submit a sworn statement concerning the candidate's financial condition or an extenuating circumstance and fill out a form provided by the election board. Right?
You could do extenuating circumstances or reason. You would put extenuating? I'm okay with that. Okay,
All right, so you want to add the words or extenuating circumstances?
Mhm.
That's it?
keep it simple.
All right.
And that'll cover pretty much everything else.
Back to this form that we just did. We only need one date, a signature and date, and print name and date. I think we just need one date.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Cynthia. So since this isn't this is just a draft, do I need any approval, any motion to, we'll just, okay. So I'll take this back, I'll put it together, I'll work with, make it look pretty. And then I'll bring that back to the Rules Committee. So bring it to the Rules Committee on November 1st, find out from them, and then I don't think I need to do anything else then with the Finance Committee. They didn't have any other questions, other than the options. I think we've decided we're not going to give an option, we'll just leave it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on late fee waiver form? On the surface, okay. Last piece is outstanding late fee. We did have a late fee that was outstanding, but Regina said today it's been paid.
Whose was that?
That was Alderman Gay's. It's what, $40? Okay, great. All right, I think that's it. That's all I have on my,
What about, did you announce anything about the new appointee?
I didn't because I wasn't, I didn't know. He's not sworn in yet.
When is his swearing in?
That's why he's not here tonight. So,
Right, I just want.
but we will have a new member at the next meeting.
Does he know our schedule?
Mhm.
Okay. And he'll be sworn in within the month.
We're waiting for him to come back, and then he has to, talk to them and get on the mayor's account. So they're gonna know last time they did that.
Would he come whether he was sworn in or not?
It's just late for this.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's,
So we have till November. I mean, we have a month.
things can take time, Eileen.
I know they
Can't rush into things.
can. All right. Anything else? Actually got a lot accomplished in an hour. Nothing, Teresa? Nope. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for being here. I
Thank you
know it's
all.
kind of starting to be the crazy time. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion that the Board of Supervisors of Elections adjourns at 8 o'clock.
All right, second, all in favor?